So what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about arpeggios, really. Now, what are arpeggios? It's kind of this like mysterious zone. Everybody talks about chords, everyone talks about scales, but arpeggios are kind of like the hybrid between scales and chords. Now, if you think about it, basic arpeggios. We're going to talk about basic ones. I'm not going to get too deep. And the basic arpeggios use the same formulas as chords. So if you've got a major chord, you've got a root note, you've got a third, and you've got a fifth. So if you wanted a major arpeggio, it uses the same ingredients. Yeah, it uses a root, a third, and a fifth. And what you do is you just repeat those in order. So, and you can break them up as well. You can break them, spread arpeggios, and all sorts of different ways of getting clever with it. But I think the thing is, you need to understand the way the kind of this idea that I think of them as a kind of like an in between sound. But what they can do to your lead stuff, to your solos, is break up scales. Now, so scales you play one note at a time. Chords you can play as clusters, all at the same time. So scales are really monophony, and chords are polyphony. Yeah, so mono means one, poly means many. So we're kind of like in that space in between. We take the notes of the chord, the root, third, fifth, and then what we're going to do is, instead of playing it like a chord, we play it like a scale. So we play each ingredient at a time. So we play a root, third, fifth. We play them in a monophonic type of way. Yeah. So what you do is, and ME says they're broken chords. Yeah, you break chords up into notes like you would play a scale. So this is one of those things, yeah. Now, there's a few different ways of looking at arpeggios, and this is I think this is a kind of good overview if you're struggling with the topic of arpeggios. Then what you can do is you can apply these. It's just, could you please let us know when to use arpeggios? Well, because of the nature of the arpeggio, yeah, what you can do is you can lay the arpeggio on top of the chord, what I call the action chord, where all the action's happening, yeah, or the chord of now, yeah, because I've gone over this before about the esoteric nature of this. It sounds a little bit woo-woo, but the only time that exists is now. Yeah, and that's where music exists. So when you play a chord, there is a chord happening. And the thing is if you have a D minor chord and you put an E minor chord on top of it, it creates a whole new chord. The naming convention, we're not going to get into the naming of it, but the thing is, that's what we've got to focus on. The harmony that is happening in the now. Yeah, so the overall harmony in the now. Now, I think people tend to think as well that harmony is nice and pretty, but it isn't. Harmony can be concordant. That means the sounds work with each other, they go with each other, or discordant, and the sounds work against each other, they rub against each other. So we can kind of think, we've got to think about that. We've got to take that into consideration as well. But what we can do is, it's all about just affecting those chords that are in the now, okay? That's all that we're thinking, really. But playing them, okay, when you want to play them, then what you can do is you can add them to, say, how you would phrase something. You could start with an arpeggio, go into a scale, and then end on an arpeggio. And the arpeggio's job is to either outline the chord with that consonance, so it goes with it, or with dissonance, so it rubs against it and creates some tension. And that tension that it creates is what creates interest. If you think about it, if you watch a movie, yeah, you're watching a movie, right, and it's just like, and nothing happens all the way through it because everything is lovely, yeah, you're going to get bored with the movie. You need the car chase. You need the hanging off a cliff by your fingertips. You need that tension to create some drama. And then the thing is, once that drama's been created, then it needs to release. And it's a similar thing that we do with music, but we're doing it all the time from chord to chord to chord to chord. We're always moving from one chord to another chord, really, if you think about it. So it's chord, 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 chord. And every time you play the chord, that is in a now, okay? And you've got to make that decision what you're going to do and how you're going to affect that chord, okay? So that's the thing. So one of the strategies that I think is really useful is to look at the major and the minor triads. When I say triads, I mean the arpeggios, triads. You can interpret it in the same way because we're just using 3 notes, okay? So if I take, so let's have a look. What's this one? Let's go. I'm going to use a string pair. Now, in the book, I talk about string pairs, and what we can do. Well, essentially, this is a no-brainer for me, right? What we do is, if we've got something on the E and the A string, yeah, that's a string pair. We're thinking of those as a pair of strings. And if I use octaves to jump over, and that's part of the cage system, I can use octaves to jump over. So that's an A. Yeah. And I jump over, then that lands me on my next string pair, which is the middle string pair. So there I have the middle string pair. Now if I jump over again, another octave, using a D-shaped octave, there's the E-shaped octave, D-shaped octave. Then that jumps me onto the same note in another string pair, because the string pair would be here. Now, the easiest way for me to demonstrate how the string pair thing works is if I would play, say, power chords. So there's an A power chord there. If I jump over, there's an A power chord there. Less powerful because it's in a different register. Yeah. And then this is a power chord shape. Doesn't sound as powerful, but now it can take on the form of being a little bit more motivic. Yeah, so that might be an idea that you incorporate into a lead idea. That's a really strong interval, is the root to the 5th. eyup, thunder ace. Yeah, you'll know that you know, we get a lot of tunes. John Williams loves the 5th. Star Wars, Superman. There's lots of themes out there that use that interval approach as the first 2 notes that you hear in a theme become the most recognizable factor of that theme. Yeah, so you just you hear it and you go, ba-da, you know what it is. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, Superman. Yeah, so you know exactly straight away what it is. So you can take this idea, power chord, move it here. And you can layer those ideas. And if you're in a band with another guitar, then you would definitely do that. You know, it would be, I think it's boring when you have 2 guitarists in the band and they play the same chords in exactly the same position. Yeah, and you get this kind of strange chorusy effect as they're slightly out of tune with each other, you know. But it just, all the frequencies live in that spot when 2 guitars play in the same spot. Angus McDonald says, Ricky, I've got my York. I don't know what your York is. Your fork? Are you eating your breakfast? You've got your fork. I always look at the keyboard to see what letter is next to one that I think might be a misspell, and just like see if it's a fudge finger job. So what we do is we take this here. Right, I know this is a root and this is the 5th. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I know that because of the way the guitar is tuned, this is going to be a 4th. And then I know that this is going to be a major 3rd here. So what I do is I take that root. Now I've got the root, I've got the 3rd, and I've got the fifth. And because what that is, this note here is an A. Yeah. If I play the chord, there's the chord. Yeah. Down there where you know it, you can see it as one of your cowboy chords. You can hear it's the same thing. Give me start. Yup, lad. Hey up, lad. You've up, fudged it. Got work to do. No worries. Get to work. So what we're going to do is we take this here. Take this idea. There's the root. There's the major third. There's the fifth. And what I can do is I can apply it over those string pairs. So if I take that same pattern, look, I'm using my middle finger, I'm using my index, and I'm using my pinky there. So I go root, third, fifth. Put it on that string pair. It's the same thing, but down an octave. Now I just played all three of them together. You can hear. I get a bigger idea. And that enables me to cross over all 6 strings and play a big arpeggio. And what it can do is, part of the thing with playing lead is you don't want to stay in one voice for too long. What you want to do is you want to move to other places and switch into other voices just to create interest. Because you think about it, music's a language. And if it's a language, then what we want to be is very conversational about it. And when you have a conversation, say it's between a man and a woman, they would both have a different tone of voice, a different timbre. So we tap into that idea, and then it makes it more human. And then because it's more human, people connect with it, you connect with it, and the actual sounds that you make feel right. They feel true. They feel authentic to you. So the thing is, if we do that, now I can do that with in any position now, and I don't need to learn a whole ream of shapes and stuff like that. All I need to do is think to myself, right, okay, string pairs, caged octaves for jumping over, bridging strings. Okay, that's all I need to think. And I've got that. Now I can do this on the inside string pairs as well, because we have 6 string pairs. We've got the E and A string, we've got the D and G string, we've got the B and the E string. Then we have a subset, which is the E and the the A and the D string, and the G and the B string. Now the G and the B string are a bit funny. They're tuned differently, but the others, they're all tuned to fourths. So any idea that I do here, if I find that same note, right? So this note is an A, and if I find come on, Ricky, where are you? Brain's not working yet. All right, I know what I was doing. I was looking for it on the wrong string. There's an A there, so I can just replicate that there. The G-shaped arpeggio, Gibby says. Right, well, okay, right, okay, we'll go with this. I'll move along. What you're saying here now, then, Gibby Star, is let me just flesh out what you're just asking there, because when you said that, my brain went G-shaped arpeggio, please. So when you said G-shaped, essentially what you're saying is the G shape from the cage system. Because what you can do is you can tap into the cage system as well to make bigger arpeggios. This is a much bigger way of looking at it. I've just shown you this simple way of looking at it. Now, the G-shaped arpeggio, I don't necessarily think that it's the easiest shape, right? Because when we think about the G-shaped arpeggio, right, what it does is it drops us on one note. So say I want to play a B there, a B arpeggio, a major arpeggio, yeah, okay. So that's going to be this B here. So we've got E, F, G, A, B. So we've got the B here at the 7th fret on the thick E string. Okay, now the way that the cage system works is any note that's on the E string, if we want to think about it from the chord perspective, the G shape is the shape that's pointing towards the head note, and the E shape is pointing up towards the body. So if we want to put that on, can you see that's the G shape? Can you see? If I put my capo there, then you'd probably see it. But if I bar there, then you can see that's the G shape. There's the G-shaped chord. And this is what I was saying right at the beginning, is like this idea of taking a chord and breaking it up and playing it like a scale, essentially, okay? Because it's a hybrid idea. So there is a G shape. That's the root note of it there on that string there. And that is the same root note that I would use for the E chord. The E shape, sorry, not the E chord, the E shape. This is a B chord. Now here's the thing. This is one of the things I think that puzzles people. Look, I'm playing an E chord. Sorry, see it puzzling me for a minute there. I'm playing a B major chord, but I'm playing it with an E shape. Does this make sense? I'm using an E shape, not an F shape, because this is another thing that confuses people. This is not an F shape. If I take the bar off, move it down here, you can see I get the E major shape. So it's the that's the E shape from the cage system, right? Okay, so take that back up there. That's an E shape. This is a G shape. It's the same chord. Not as easy to play as the E shape, right? But there's ways around that. Good morning, Harry from Wolverhampton. Hope you're okay, buddy. So what we would do, playing the G-shaped arpeggio. Now you're already at a bit of a disadvantage with this one, because if you think about it, you can change your fingering if you want to. Yeah, there's no set fingering, I wouldn't say, with this. So what we can do is we start on the pinky, which is a weak finger. Yeah, you've got to get used to this. So you would play the pinky, then you would use the ring finger to hit that third. So there's the root, there's the third, there's the fifth, there's the root. Now I found that to be not the easiest way to play this, but I don't think there's any real rules. Now, if you use the standard G shape, you would get this leap of a minor sixth here. Yeah, so now I like to round that off. I'll go third, fifth, root, okay? So the shape that I end up using is the kind of oasis-y kind of G, because we've got two kinds of G. We've got the three-fingered G, the Dylan G, and we've got the oasis-y G. Good morning, Al. Good morning, Gary. So it's breakfast waffles. So we've got this here, okay? We can play that there like that. Now that's really awkward. What to do with the first finger and which notes to play. But here, let me just say, Gibby, yeah, right? Okay, that's cool. Now listen to this. That's the E shape. And that is infinitely easier to play. So the thing is, I think part of the idea is right, it's the cage system, so I must utilize all of these shapes. I must learn all of them. But the thing is, you know, if you struggle with one shape forever, then it's like it might be basically physiology, you know, how your hands interact with the fretboard. It might be that your hands just won't do that thing. Yeah, it's like certain chords. Like I'd love to be able to get my thumb over, but I've got a stumpy thumb. Yeah, and that's like one of those things, and everyone says, oh, if you want to play Hendrix, you've got to get that thumb over the top. But Hendrix had huge thumbs, so you've got physical limitations that make certain things harder. Yeah, and Gary says, what's easier, using chord shapes or intervals? Well, the thing is, there's a bit of both going on there, Gary, because the thing is with arpeggios, there's different ways of thinking about it. You can think of them as big structures where you're using massive areas of the fretboard, or you can use, like I say, the simplest, like I started off with this session, was just using 3 notes and then turning that, you know, into that was exactly the same shape, but what I did, I used the string pairs, bridging over the octaves from the E-shaped octave into the D-shaped octave to move over there. Now, what I can do with that is obviously this is just a major. That's my template, if you will. Now, what I can do is I can modify all this stuff. Good morning, Crankin' Sports. Mario, good morning. It's 2 in the morning here. Oh, Judas Priest. Yes. Yeah, KK Downing. What a great guitarist. Right, so we could take that. But equally, you know, that was in A. I could do that using a cage shape. So Gibby asked me about that. So if I could play that then as this idea of a G-shaped arpeggio, you see, that was already feeling a little bit difficult. Yeah, so I can experiment. I can think to myself, well, the pinky feels a bit weird, so let's try the third finger. And then I've got this jump that I need to make here because of stumpy sausages. And I've got this rolling thing that needs to happen. Yeah, now, arpeggios very much get labelled wrongly with sweep picking. Now, sweep picking is playing arpeggios, but with a really economical method. That's the way to look at this. Picky Man's still in bed. What's going on? Good morning, Vicky. I'm just talking about arpeggios. Yeah, this is, you can watch this again. I'm just put this up here. I just thought I'd go live. I was at a loose end. So, okay, so we've got this idea. So I wasn't particularly enamored with that idea there. You know, it feels awkward because you're going backwards, you're retreating down the neck. And that's always a little bit trickier. Now I could escape that idea. Right, okay, I know I'm in G. And now I put... Oh, sorry, it was an A, that wasn't it? So I can bridge that idea. Now, one of the cool shapes that we get, and I think this is kind of like an extension of this idea here. Yeah, if we take this, right, and I could think to myself, well, you remember I said this is kind of like an in-between. It's a hybrid between scales and chords. Yeah. There's the scale. So we've got that scale there. If I take this here, I can see hidden. Oh, thank you, still picture. Thank you very much. So we go like this. There's the arpeggio. There's the major that I had there that I knew was in A. So if I take that there, now I've got another note that I can add in here. Now, if you, the eagle-eyed of you might see that this is a D shape. Let me put this in context, this D shape. If I take the D shape here, in where you know it, as part of your cowboy chords here, then what I can do is, I know my root is there, my third is there, and I've got a fifth here. So what I can do is I can extend that D shape. Okay, so I've just extended it. There. Now that's a D. Chords move like notes. So if I move this up a whole step, I get an E. And this pattern is absolutely wonderful. This is a really nice one. It's an easy win as well to add on to your ideas of your solos. Because Gibby was saying, or I think it was Gibby that was saying, well, what do you do? Where do you put it on? So, like I said, I was in this scale here. So I just added a little bit there, scale. I did a little trill with a grace note, with a pull off there. landed me on there, and then I outlined the chord. Yeah, I outlined the A major triad there. So I just put it in there. Or 3 notes per string. I'm not using, Barry, I'm not using 3 notes per string. I do combine them. But I think if you're going to learn arpeggios, string pairs, Srenang Foaka, then string pairs are probably the easiest entrance to that, because if Malmsteen uses it, then I'm behind that. But it's not too early. It is too early for cake. I'm fasting at the moment. I'm back on my intermittent fasting because I've probably been eating too much cake, and that's the thing. So yeah, I'm not going to be eating for another probably another 2.5 hours. So, and it's 10 in the UK right now. So this is what I'm doing, Barry. And let me just extend this idea, actually. You know, so I can see that I've got this D shape here. I can also turn that into this D minor shape. So if I go like this, and I target that flat third, fifth. Now I've got another arpeggio. Yeah, so now what I've got now is I've got major arpeggio, I've got minor. Okay, so I've got major and minor. Now all I need to do then is move this. What we can do is we can take this and we can move it. So say I was in the key of E. Yeah? Now what I did is I used the E shape there. Right? And I can join that up into other shapes as well. But see, so what I did there is I took the... I can't remember what I did there. I took the E shape and I moved it up into the D shape. Now this is starting to get into the caged idea now. So now, the way the D shape is, if you look in a C chord, and I take everything off apart from that first finger, if you imagine the open G string and the open E string as part of this 3 strings here on the G, B and E string, that's a D shape. There's a D shape that is hidden inside the C shape. Yeah, that's a D shape there, right? If you put that on, it suddenly becomes a C shape. So what I do is I can think to myself, I look along my B string and go B, C, D, E. Okay, so I want an E major arpeggio. There's my root note. There's my third. There's my fifth. Now what I know is I've got my fifth here, and there's my third, and there's my fifth. Okay, so look at this. C shape. There's the C shape. There's the D shape. See how they intersect into each other. And that's more of a caged idea. But when it comes to 3 note per strings, those are interesting. I think 3 note per string arpeggio, 3 note per string stuff comes into interest when you want to mix modal colours, scale colours in there as well, and have a little bit more complexity. I think getting into that can be a little bit tricky, because really you need to learn your majors and minors first, because this is what I was going to show you. E major, right? Now what I can do is, you see that there, I can take this up here. This is why I teach that lesson in the book with the D shape moving up the neck. Yeah, this is why I teach this, because it's preparatory. Yeah, I'm priming you for this idea here. Not only does it work with chords, it will work with arpeggios. So let me just show you what I mean with that. I'll take it up the first 3 chords of E major. Okay? So I've got E major. I've got this. This is F sharp minor. Then I get this note here, G sharp minor. So if I take those there, now sound great as chords, innit? Okay, so we've got that going on there. Oh, Excuse me. Right, so now what I can do is you see, so what I can do now is I can move these up using that idea of playing the key up using those shapes. That's the cage. That's where caged comes in. Caged, people think that caged is all about this idea of just moving through the 5 shapes, but it's also eking the most that you can out of each shape. But the thing is, you need to see the master shape, which is the caged master shapes are C, A, G, E, D. Okay, that's all there is. There is no B shape, right? There's no F shape. Yeah, there's that's all there is. Okay. Good morning, Maggie. And chimp number 1. Good morning. Yeah. So I think. So that takes care of major and minor. I'll just go back to where I started in that A. Yeah. And I can do that there as well, actually. So I could do this. This is another way of looking at that string pair idea, yeah? If I go there, starting on the A, right, like that. There's the flat 3rd. There's the 5th. Take that here. And that gives me an A minor arpeggio now, all the way from there to there. I think arpeggios are a great device, like I say, to help you move from one voice to another. So yeah, and you don't have to go like blazing speeds and stuff. If you want the bigger, faster ones, then you need to then add this kind of bigger idea. And that kind of gets into, I think, for me, the 3 note per string ties in a little bit, but it's more about how you pick. I do something called economy picking because I suppose, I don't know if it's because I'm lazy, but I think it makes sense to use economy. When I play this shape, I'm playing 1 note per string, 1 note, 1 note, 1 note, 1 note. Then on here, 2 notes, but what I do is I only pick the first one. Do a little hammer on and a pull off on that last one. Then that puts me on the correct upstroke now to go back 1 note per string. When you're playing odd numbers, what happens is, of 1 and 3 strings, what happens is the pick glides from one string to the next. Because if you think about it, going from 1, 1, 1, 1, this is all one stroke. And you stroke it across like a brush. This is why it's called sweep picking. So there, those were all just single notes going across the neck from there. So I'm going 12, 10, 9, 10, 8, okay? And I'm outlining an A minor arpeggio. And then what I'm doing is, as soon as I get to this one here, I think to myself, I'm back on my string pair. Yeah? So you can see there, and that's the one I used here. But I just turned it into the pentatonic because it lives in there. Because if you think about the pentatonic, it goes root, flat 3rd, and there's the 5th, but there's the 4th in there as well. So we take that, same lick. Now if I had my flat 5, I get the blues scale. Put the little arpeggio in there. I'm just thinking the outline in the triad. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. So we just put that in there. Now there's lots of ways to use this. Kirk Hammett uses this all the time. You can hammer on and then pick that note on its own. Need to warm up, but here There's major. I don't do private lessons, Barry. I'm afraid, unfortunately. Yeah, so there's that one. Now, look, here's the thing. Because I know this is my root, this is my third. Yeah. If I take that there and I flatten that fifth, now I've got my diminished. So if I go like this, I wouldn't play that diminished like that, to be honest. But you can hear it's the same thing. Because with the diminished, what I'd probably more often than not think is extending it into a 3-string pattern. Just like the D shape. There's the minor. And then I turn that. Yes, Picky Man, I'm on later on for my live, but this is just breakfast waffles. So the thing is, the diminished arpeggio, this is a proper diminished arpeggio. That's cool because what that does is you can get lots of practice in this. It is a good warm-up, good stretch out for your fingers. If I take this diminished arpeggio here, all I'll do is drop it down in minor thirds. See where I landed? I just look over here onto my thin E string and I think, all right, play the same pattern again. Same happens again. Same thing. Yeah. Because the diminished is a symmetrical pattern. Yeah, so you can add that as well. All right, and that's a cool way of doing it. And then once you realise that, what we could do is we can string skip. String skipping is a very Nuno thing. Who else is it? Paul Gilbert thing. So I'm kind of betraying my early tutelage. Now this, yeah, is a major arpeggio. Rick says, do you use one shape that you remember and then remember everything as a modification of that pattern, like a center? Yes, exactly. And then you don't, and then what you do is, because it's like cooking, Rick, you know, it's like, if you think about it, how many different cuisines do we have that use tomatoes? You know, tomatoes and cheese. Yeah, there's loads of different cuisines that use that sort of thing. So it's cooking. We're cooking with chords and notes. So really, it's a lot easier just to memorize all this stuff, because if you've just got basic shapes, this is why the cage system's great, because you once you see how that framework works, then you can modify it to find other things. Yeah, it's kind of like that, really. I mean, yeah, there's learning things rote, because you just program your hands to do them. You program your hands to play certain things, and that's what happens. But really, you need to see the frameworks. You need to understand where everything is. Just starting watching from the start. It's a double bubble Wednesday. Yeah, well, tonight's class is going to delve into a couple of pages from the book and some other stuff. And like I say, you know, David, when I do my live class on a Wednesday evening, I always add a bit extra, and tie a bit of extra in there. I've got some other bits and bobs to go at. But I just thought I'd pop on and do arpeggios. Let me talk about these arpeggios. These are the kind of Nuno-y sort of things. What we do is we skip the B string. So we're... Now what this is kind of taking that minor there and adding another note in there. Yeah. So we've got this, we're putting the 7th in. Yeah. Putting the flat 7 in there. Yeah, and this is now I'm not. I did see. I did. The last person I kind of really saw using this was a guy called Tim Miller, who's a great jazz guitarist, extremely economical. And what he does is he calls it 2-1-2s. Yeah, and you use 2 notes on the thin E string, 1 note on the B string, and then 2 notes on the G string. Yeah, so you build patterns up using that. I like that because what you can do is you can group it into nice chunks of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Which is useful if you want to use that. And somebody said, well, where do you use these arpeggios? So if I took that there and I went... What I did is I used 3 different ideas there. Started off with this 2-1-2 arpeggio in groupings of 4. Moved down into a position because I know I want to play 3 note scale pattern there. Outlining the A minor there. Okay. Then I slide down to the flat 7. Hammer on that root. And then go into a kind of a bluesy ending. Yeah, does that make sense? So really what I was doing, I wasn't just thinking to myself, put the arpeggio down there. What you want to do is you want to mix it. And then it's a cocktail. Yeah, your solos are like cocktails, really. That's what you want to do. So you're putting a slice of lemon in there, you put in a cherry, you know. So there's lots of different ways to do this. I wonder what different centers are best for different situations. Well, it depends on I think it depends on the genre. It depends on the speed of the piece. It depends on a lot of different things, really. In terms of centers, it's kind of got to be appropriate. But the thing is, if you start small, you can always expand on that idea. If you start too big, you're going to spit some of it out, aren't you? You think about it. You've got a big slice of cake, Rick, and you stuffed it in your gob. Yeah. You can't consume it. It's going to be awful, and you're going to swallow it. You're going to, to get it out of your mouth, the only way, real nice way to do it is swallow it, and it's going to give you indigestion. You don't want that, right? So think about it. Start small. That will be easier to learn, give you confidence, because it's easy to learn, because you can conquer it. You know that you've defeated it. By conquering it, you know you've won. Yeah, and you go, oh yeah, I've got that. Yeah, and going from that state of mind, yeah, instead of going from this huge pattern idea, yeah, and then it's like you're always set to lose. You're always going to lose. Do you know? It's like these games. If you get a game that you start off with 100 points, yeah, and as you go through the game, you just lose points. And the goal is not to lose points. But the thing is, you're losing points, so you feel like you're losing. Yeah? That's the thing. Or what if there's a game where, as you go through it, you add points, and that gives you the high score. It's a different way of thinking about it. So really thinking about how you add stuff it's really focused around the chord. Yeah, so it's all about that chord, Rick. Like, so say it was an A major, yeah? Yeah, really outside sounds. Yeah, so we've got some really outside sounds. I didn't mean to go into half diminished there, but there. Because you think about it, if you look at how people comment on things, now there is a time and there is a place for shreddy solos, yeah? They're great. They take your breath away, and it's astounding, the technique. But a lot of people really dig Dave Gilmour. Why is that? Because there's simplicity to his phrasing. You know, there's a bit of flash here and there. You know, personally, that's my school of thinking is a bit of flash here and there, just to show that it's there. And I think learning how to shred is always gonna put you in good stead. Yeah, because you can always pull it back. You know, if you can drive at 150 miles an hour, yeah, driving at 30 miles an hour is easy, you know. So this is the thing. Hey up, David, you finally made it to a live show. Watch all the replays. Thank you very much. It started at 10 p.m. almost 11 in Hawaii. Oh, hello, Chuck. So that's that idea. Now, okay, that's what I was on about here with this 2-1-2. Now I saw somebody else do it. I can't remember who it was, but it was quite a long time ago. Do you know what? It might have been my guitar teacher that taught me at music college, Andy Bray. So this idea, and actually, if I'm honest, part of it comes from this idea. And it's okay, and this is okay, because do you know something? There's a lot of things that we tend to feel bad about that we can't do on the guitar, that's in a book or somebody's doing, and you just think to yourself, oh, that's just like, oh, I can't do that. You know, one of the things that I struggle with, and I still work on, but I just always feel frustrated with, and that is 3-note per string pentatonics. Yeah, because I've got a small reach, you know. I've got a small reach. So the thing is, it's like what you're doing really is just comparing yourself to others, and comparison is the thief of joy, you know. And I try it now, but I'm a little bit more kind of like I'm a bit kinder to myself if I can't get it. If you know what I mean by the 3-note per string patterns is with pentatonics. If I take 2 pentatonic box patterns, yeah, you play those as a 3-note per string scale. I struggle with those, you know. So the thing is, what I thought to myself is there a way of replicating that sound? And I thought to myself, well, I have to find a way that suits my hands. And the funny thing is that once I find a way that suits my hands, it becomes my voice. Yeah, because I'm not thinking about the physicality of it so much, I end up being freer because I'm just thinking about making music. I'm not thinking about the technicalities of playing a pattern or all that sort of stuff. The big patterns, Rick, the big patterns, they're just maps. Just think of them as maps, yeah? And the thing is, you don't have to start at it's not like a maze, you know, where there's the good morning, Dr. Adams. It's not like a maze where you've got to get from one end to the other, you know. What you can do is you can just use a fragment of it. And this is what I meant by starting small. So look, okay, so let me just take, I'm going to expand on this is I'm going to do it C major actually. This is going to be an E-shaped arpeggio. Now instead of playing it, I've got a few different ways I could play this actually. So I could play my root third, my fifth, and my root third, fifth, root there. I could play it like that, okay? But I like this one as well. I think this is a Nuno idea. We play the root to the third, we roll over on that E shape. You can see the E shapes underneath there. And that's the thing I'm looking for. I'm looking for this E shape. Yeah, now what I've got is I've got a choice here. Yeah, I can play this third here to the fifth. There's the root. No, that's not the third. Yeah. Oh, that was the fifth. So what I've got is I incorporate that string skip that I was trying to get into before. Or what I could do is, that's a big pattern, or I could just focus on this bit. technique wise, I could maybe say to myself, let's do some hybrid picking, and I'm going to pick with this finger on the thin E string. I'm going to pick with the pick on the G string. I need one of those mutes up there to stop the strings from ringing out. Or I could pick it. Yep. Now the thing is, like I said, getting into this idea, back to the beginning. Remember this? That one there. And we can modify it, like I say, into this diminished as well. Right, okay, so can I do the same with this string picking pattern? Yeah, so we're looking at that, and I'm thinking this is C major, okay? But I'm starting on the 3rd. Yeah, going to the 5th, root, 3rd. Look, there's the octave on that 3rd. Yeah? So then what I can do is I can modify this, and I think to myself, well, if that's the 3rd, and I flatten it, yeah, now I can get a minor string picking pattern. There's the minor, and then if I think to myself, well, okay, well, what if I flatten the 5 as well? Oh, that's not good news there, Dr. Adams, Doc Adams' son. Send him our regards. Jesus. Well, that sounds horrendous. Crikey. Oof. We'll send him our regards. Yeah, so we've got this. So that's string skipping. But that might be technically more difficult. Do you know, I remember I used to have nightmares when I first started learning guitar, and in my nightmares I would lose, you know, function of my hands, or I'd have my fingers cut off in my dream, and I'd wake up in a sweat and then practice for 4 hours in relief that I still had my fingers. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing when you do that, you know, especially if, you know, I know your dad likes playing guitar and that's a thing. So, truck doing 50, running a red light. That's awful, is that? Yeah, so, you know, and I remember running. I once ran my fingers through the tips of my fingers through a table saw. Yeah, I thought I'd lost them. I thought I'd chopped them off. But they're there. Yeah, please give our regards to your father. You know. So, okay. So I think how long have I been on? Nearly an hour. Any questions? So what else did I have? String pairs, string skipping. It's a bit hard to get my beat now. His right hand shot at the radio, and his elbow, his right broken too. Oof. Yeah, Django. That's an odd tale, is Django Reinhardt, because it's the story as I understand it is his wife made flowers out of acetone, and they're highly combustible, and it set their caravan on fire, and he ran inside to rescue his guitar, and it got burnt, and that's what I understand is that it burnt his arm, and he ended up with this contracted ring finger and middle finger, pinky. You know, they said if you hadn't been in such good, we might not have made it. Oh, crikey! Well, that's awful news to hear. But he is alive. That is good. That is good, and we anticipate seeing him in here again at some point. Yeah, so I just had a noodle then. So if it's okay, if I feel a bit odd carrying on the lesson. So, yes, best wishes and a speedy recovery, indeed. So what I was going to say is, with this string pairs, it is if we have the root note, we can have the root note on the B string here. We can also have the root note on the thin E string. And if you think about it, this is an interval of a fourth. So really that's the fifth. If we go from there, do I have a link from my books? Yes. / yeah, there's a link. Thank you, Barry. There you go. So that's the link. Ugh. So what we can do is, no worries. Like I say, send our regards. What we do is if we take this root note and we put it on the thin E string instead. Remember, this is going to apply over the string pairs. So remember, we started out with this idea. So this now becomes the root note. If we want to think about it in that way, in your string pair, the string that is lower to the ground, if you want it, or the higher pitched string in the string pair. So if we take this here, we use this as the root note, then this interval is the fourth. Now, I've had questions before, like, why do I need to know how to invert intervals and stuff like that? Well, if you know perfect fourth inverted is a perfect fifth, then it becomes easier to think about your triads. Because what you do is you go, oh, hang on, look, if that's a fourth, then it's also a fifth in relation to this root note here. So there's the root, there's the fifth, right? And I need the third. Okay, there's the major third. There's the minor third. So here's root, minor third, fifth. That's an arpeggio. That's essentially the triad outlined. There's a minor arpeggio. Now if I take this here, I've got to remember that the lower string is my root note. There's the root, there's the fifth. Now what I've got is I've got a D minor arpeggio there. So, you know, so you can go like this, A major arpeggio. Yeah, into a minor arpeggio. There. So the string pair thing, it's got a double whammy to that as well. So we got that. So I can take that, and because I know that that's D minor, that'll fit in. There's my D minor chord. See, I can use that arpeggio to bridge from a chord, arpeggiate that little shape up. Really? That's all it is. It's a D minor arpeggio. Into my minor there, into my blues. Yeah. So the thing is, hopefully that makes sense. So we can take that idea as well, having the root note on the thinner string. Yeah, and like, look. You hear that? That's major. It's a bit stretchier. There. And that will... So you see there's these shapes start to morph between each other. So we've got that one there. Yeah. This is a dominant seventh. Yeah, so we start adding extra notes. Now the cool thing as well, that if we want to get through more of these patterns, let's just actually just thought to myself, you know what? I've said it. I'm just going to go to the back to the caged idea again, where I talked about this D shape. Yeah. What I can do there, that's the fifth. There's the root, third, fifth, root, into that D shape there. And then what would happen with that is D shape. That would then put us into the C shape, which would then give us the A shape. I find the A shape a little bit tricky. It's this. What happens as well, we get this big leap here. We've got a major third here, but this is a perfect fourth. So my stumpy sausages, especially down here, find that a little bit tricky. But do I need to play that if I've got... There's the A-shaped version of that F, but if I take that there... Why struggle when I can play it there with that? I could. Play it like that. So now I'm just joining all those up. But like I was saying, it's like, don't feel compelled that you have to go C shape, A shape, G shape, E shape, D shape. You have to run through them. No, you'll probably find it's easier to connect specific shapes to each other. And I think Gibby said earlier on, or somebody said earlier on, about playing the G-shaped arpeggio. Yeah, that's tricky. So you might find that part of it works, but you don't have to use the whole shape. And you could use the bit where you... So say... where was I with this? I was like... right. There's the G shape. There's a G arpeggio. Using a D shape, blending into a C shape. And then look, I just went straight from my root down here. Yeah, and it finishes it off. The ear finishes it. Listen. Yeah, it finishes it. I particularly like moving from that E shape, yeah, into the D shape there. Yeah. And because I've got my triad here to help me, then I can see if I wanted to add something to it, then I can do so. Oh, here's a cool thing as well with this, right? With we can get fancy schmancy with this. We've only been really looking at triads, and this, I suppose, is probably a good point to end this stream. after this. There's the major arpeggio. Root, third, fifth. Well, what if I add the major 7 that's just underneath the root? Oh. So what I've done is I've just taken the same thing, and now I've got 2 notes per string, which is very much going to be like how I would play, you know, a pentatonic scale. Yeah? Thank you. That's good. Hopefully you got some recordings and stuff. Yeah, noontime in England, still early. It's 11:15. So the idea with that is as well, look, you think to yourself, okay, we're in this position, we know this is an A. I play this dominant chord here. This is a dominant 7th chord, so this is root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, okay? I outline the root, 3rd, 5th part of that chord and then reach back for that flat 7 there, using my root as a reference. Root, 7, flat 7. Now I've got a little pattern I can just focus on, and that's something to do. Yeah, like I say, rather than eating the full cake, just to have a tiny slice. You can always go back for more if you want more. Yeah. There. Can you hear that that fits with that chord? Now if I wanted something to sound outside, then I might put this sharp 5 in here. So how would I do that? So look. So you see there. And it's not too big an idea. Yes, we're in the twilight zone. You see, if I just add that note without thinking about it to that there, and I just go... What I did is I played the sus4 there. Look, because it's a D shape, isn't it? There's the sus4. So look. So that might be the thing that I build a whole kind of idea around. So I think, yeah, okay. Just putting that A on as a foundation. If you've got a looper, use a looper. Yeah. So we can put that on there, which is good. And then I can think to myself, well, I know that my scale that lives under there is this. There's that's the A major scale, but I extend it to cover all the strings. Oh, I committed to it. Yeah, and then pull back in. So, I mean, that's just doing that. I've just needed something. More towards the bottom, under the middle point. You can stretch your fingers out, but I think the thing is, it's like I did a video about hand stretch once. And I've got a proper ruler this time. In the original, the ruler broke off. So what you can do is there's a contracture that happens with the tendons here in your hand there. So if you open your hand up like that, and then if you close, you look at your hand. So if you're closing it around an orange, well, what you'll see is the distance between your pinky and your index. As you close your hand, it shortens. So this is restricting your reach. Whereas what you can do is, if you kind of fan your fingers out like that, yeah, as if you're pulling your pinky down towards this corner of your palm, then you can see that what happens is you retain the distance. You can get a bit more out of it then. Yeah, so this shape here, this fanning shape here, just does that. Yeah. So contracture, and that just widens your hand out. So when you comes to playing that, you just bear that idea in mind. So if I play that 8th fret to the 12th fret there, you can see that actually it's that lengthening, that contracture. But also as well is that the index finger is a bit of a bully. Yeah. And we have to kind of defeat that bullying index finger. When you do that, when you drop it down like that, yeah, it can be hard to get the notes absolutely secure, you know. Hello, eyup, Buffly FX. I'm just trying to figure out what badge that is, for what team that is. Fifth to the 12th, crikey. You need sleep. Yes, Al. I will see you in about 8 hours. Have a good night's sleep, mate. Right, I've been on a while. I just thought I'd pop on for morning waffles. Arpeggios. There you go. That's kind of like the thing. There's no handouts for this. It's just, this is a waffle. So I'm just come on to chinwag, I suppose. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Send our regards to your father, and we wish him a speedy recovery. So, okay, I think that's it. I'm gonna go and I might have a cup of green tea. This is what I'm gonna drink when I'm fasting. I'm gonna have a drink of green tea. Green tea. It's not like Yorkshire tea, you know. I like my Yorkshire tea. So yeah, I'll see you later on tonight for tonight's guitar class. Okay. If you've got something from this, give it a wallop. And if this is your first time on the channel, then make sure you hit the subscribe and all that good stuff. And yeah, it's cool. And I will see you soon. Okay, bye.